Yo, what's go? Yes! Oh, sorry. I got it right first try. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Entity here, and welcome to episode... Shit, what episode is it? Fuck, I should have checked. It's been a long time. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Entity here, and welcome to episode 9 of the Anipoke Bros podcast. Also, day 4 of the Pokepod crossover. So, of course, I am joined with some Pokepod members, so go ahead and introduce yourself, starting with Age of Trades.
Hi, everybody. It's Age of Trades here.
JPR.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's JPR.
And finally, Richie.
What's up, y'all? Thanks for having me.
And then, of course, as usual, we have Raph and Sack here, being the Anipoke Bros. So, in today's podcast, we'll be talking about how the anime adapted the game stories from the Evo teams, or just any other things we can bring up, such as, for example, with Sun and Moon, we'll be touching on Team Skull here and there, because, you know, Guzma was involved in the league and all of that. And that's just pretty much the gist of things. That doesn't really need to be a long intro, so how about we get right into this, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's start with the original series, which the original series only really had some Team Rocket arcs here and there. I know there was the SS Ann arc, if we really want to count that, because of the Team Rocket grunts there, and the Lugia stuff. So, let's see, who do I want to pass this on to first? Zach, what about you?
To start off, I guess, you did bring up a good point. I like that you brought up the SSN arc, because for one, it was a pretty cool arc. It was just a one episode thing, but then they kind of stretched it out and made this whole island arc because of the shipwreck, which is cool. So I think that was that's a cool thing that the anime did. But compared to the games, Team Rocket don't really, I mean, they're there, they're the first evil team. They're pretty basic. But the anime, they just use, the main trio, Jesse, James, and Meowth, to be annoying. And one thing that is cool, though, is the whole thing with Giovanni and Mewtwo, which just came to mind. Yeah. And the Gen 1, the first movie in Gen 1. That was really cool because it kind of expanded what was in the games pretty much.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because it's like nowadays, that's how most people think of Mewtwo. Like, a lot of people forget the original game lore where it's like, oh, here's this random group of scientists that made Mewtwo. Like, everyone now kind of associates Team Rocket and Giovanni with Mewtwo. So I think that's like a case of the anime and the movies actually like improving on the game lore and making something more substantial.
To be honest, that is actually a very good point. Yeah, because literally, when I think about that stuff, I do literally think of the anime stuff early. And then going back to the SSN real quick. Yeah, I'm glad I did bring that up. I literally thought of that at the top of my head when doing the intro, because that is honestly one of my favorite arcs in the original series, to be honest, because it's just so funny to me. And that's one thing with the original series as well. It has very random humor, which is probably why I like it. But yeah, Team Rocket's appearances there, it was pretty small, but it was at least something. I also just thought of this at the top of my head as well. They did get some stuff later down the road as well in other arcs, such as we have them appearing in Sun and Moon, or we have them in Black and White during the Metalweta arc as well, which I really liked, but we'll get to that stuff later. And then as for the Mewtwo stuff, actually, I think we've all pretty much spoken a lot about the Mewtwo stuff already on our own separate channels and all of that. Very basic stuff. But the Lugia stuff, I think, is the real meat of the original series here. Which I can't really remember that much of the arc, to be honest, but all I do remember is that it was pretty sweet that we at least got something outside of the trio for once back in the day when it did come to that. But anyone else want to say anything else here?
I actually watched the Lugia arc not too long ago. I was having a bad day. Yeah. And I just needed I just need to watch one of my favorite arcs, and it really is actually one of my favorite arcs, and it's better than I actually originally thought it was. I know that Johto gets a lot of flack, Zach, for having a lot of filler, but I think this was one of the things that saved it. And honestly, I'd venture to say that I actually like the Lugia arc a lot better than the Aqua and Magma arc.
I mean, you're not wrong there.
Yeah, it's just easily better.
It's not a hot take.
I think it had a really good story. It kind of played on your heartstrings a little too. I like that they brought back, I forget what her name was, but she had the silver wing.
She appeared in an episode, a few episodes prior. So it was cool that they tied her back. I forgot her name though.
And then how much time they actually spent in the Whirl Islands. Like, it was a pretty sizable chunk of season 4, I thought.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Or season 5, one or the other. It's a weird transition around that time.
It was beginning of season 5.
That's right. Master Quest had everything good. That's true.
Yeah, and of course Butch and Cassidy were in it, which I loved. I always love the episodes where they bring them back.
Oh, yeah.
Because it really makes the Rocket universe like it seem much bigger, whereas they weren't in the Saint Anne episodes.
I was just gonna say that I thought it was cool how back in like the Kanto arc, like in the SSN and like the first time Butch and Cassidy showed up, it was kind of portrayed in a way that Jesse James and Meowth were like somewhat important grunts, basically. And then you get all the way to the Lugia arc, and they're having to sneak into their own base because they don't want them to be there. So it's like, it kind of shows just how far they had fallen from grace in the time. Because like when Team Rocket was first introduced in Kanto, like they were somewhat serious. You look at their debut episode, like episode 2, and you're like, whoa, these guys are actually somewhat kind of threatening. They are not the Team Rocket that we know today. They're actually closer to the Best Wishes Team Rocket, like their very first appearance.
They had a wanted poster.
Yeah, and then you get into the Lugia arc, and it's just so funny seeing them having to sneak into their own hideout. And they're having to wear like the regular grunt hats and the black suits and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I hate this." It's really funny. I enjoyed that part of the Lugia arc.
I love how mad Jessie gets at Cassidy when she's like, "Well, bring me some little fishy crackers," and then Jessie's like, "How dare she order me around like that?"
That's funny.
It's
You know,
so
actually
funny.
reminds me, the episode, this was later in Johto as well, the episode where they introduced Delibird, and it's like apparently Team Rocket, they got kicked out of the team, or like their license to be part of the team expired, so they had to rejoin the team or something like that.
That's
That
actually one
episode
of
was
my
hilarious.
favorite Johto episodes.
That's also one of my favorite episodes. You know.
This kind of like relates to what you said a little bit earlier about the Team Rocket universe, Paulie. That something I think the original series does really well is like expand on the actual team of Team Rocket, because after the original series is basically just Jesse, James, Meowth, Giovanni in the background, and then like the basic Team Rocket grunts. But what I really like is we get all these different admins and these different higher ups before Giovanni, like kind of relating back to something we should mention as well, the Lake of Rage arc with Lance and Shiny Gyarados. There was like this other part of Team Rocket that was like a lot more serious than like even the ones from the Lugia arc, in my opinion, with Professor Namba, because he's kind of a clown, let's be honest. He got tackled by Ash. So it was really cool how like we would get these different members of Team Rocket, that it was just really cool. And even like relating to the Chronicle special with the Legend of Thunder, there was like these other Team Rocket members. Like there were so many Team Rocket elite members, which is pretty cool. It's not just Jesse and James. They're pretty much like you said, JPR. They were kind of like the runts of the litter, pretty much, compared to everyone else.
I think it's somewhat interesting though how they introduced. I think this guy who was Professor Sebastian was that his name? Yeah. So Professor Sebastian, like they introduced him and Dr. Namba and all those guys, and it's like, why didn't they use the people from the games who were already? I guess Archer didn't have a name yet, so maybe this was supposed to be Archer in the anime. I have no clue. But I just thought that just now. Where I was like, oh wait, Archer wasn't actually like a character in Gold and Silver. He was just Rocket Executive, I think was his title in Gold and Silver games. So I guess I understand why Archer isn't here, why it's Professor Sebastian instead. So that's fine.
Yeah, the other 3 too, and also Silver, but you know, they don't have a handle being.
Well, it's funny because like we have characters like Silver and Wally who kind of get like counterparts later down the road. Like I think I always thought of like Shota / Sawyer as kind of like a Wally-esque character.
Yeah,
and then like obviously everyone says that Paul is Silver. It seems like there's a lot of parallels between them.
Yeah. I just thought of another Team Rocket kind of elitist at the top of my head as well, and I think it was from movie 4. The main villain was a Team Rocket. Was
the Iron Master.
Yeah, I just thought of that. Oh, and even was it
and
the
Domino?
movie? Yeah. Oh, Domino as well.
Domino.
Yeah.
The 5th movie, I forgot their name. The 2.
Yeah.
Oh, Annie and Oakley.
Annie and Oakley. There we go.
But it's dub only. They weren't Team Rocket in the Japanese version.
My Team Rocket.
they aren't? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That was one of the strange edits that movie got. That movie had a lot of really weird dub edits. Like they cut out the prologue that like explained the origins of Latios and Latios, and then they were like, "Oh, these guys have to be part of Team Rocket for some reason." So I don't know.
That's interesting.
Pokemon dub, ladies and gentlemen. Am I right?
Well, I think it's just because that was back in the day where it was like, if you're a bad guy, you have to be part of Team Rocket in some way, shape, or form. And they kind of dropped that going into the Hoenn region because they were like, oh, well, Team Rocket's not that big anymore.
Yeah, they had new evil teams in the games instead of using the same one.
That's a pretty awesome segue, by the way.
That is. Yeah, I myself back for that one.
We might as well talk about Team Magma. I said that so wrong. Team Magma and Aqua now. Then, I mean, I'll go first. I don't remember that much of it because Advanced Generation is pretty forgettable to me, which is why I need to rewatch it to make sure I get a better memory on it. But there is at least 2 things I remember from this arc, and that is Pikachu getting controlled by one of the orbs, and Lance also making an appearance as well, which I just want to say straight away, when it comes to the orb stuff, I didn't really like that because already in the original series we had quite a few plots already where Pikachu got taken over by some kind of power or something like that.
Yeah, like the Hypnos.
And this would not be the first or last time that we would see that.
Exactly. Yeah, it just
even in the same series, Pikachu turns evil like a good 3 times.
That's true as well. Yeah.
Well, I think they do it again in episode N later on, which I imagine we'll eventually talk about.
Oh yeah,
but
of course. Yeah.
They do it in XY with Malamar. They actually did in the Lugia arc. They did with Pikachu, didn't he? Like they had like that rage device that Professor.
Oh my god!
Literally, they do it like almost every villain arc, and after like the first time, I was like, please don't do this again.
Don't do it again, and they did it again.
Exactly. So that's exactly why I don't like it because it's just so repetitive. And
it's such a weird sponge of time because like that whole Pikachu thing takes up like such a big chunk of the Magma and Aqua stuff, and it's like, why didn't we get an explanation for like where Kyogre and Groudon came from instead? And, what
I hate that so much.
I guess was that the first primal reversion? Is that what happened to Pikachu? Just reverted to his animal instincts, I guess. I have no clue what they're going for there.
And it took away from the main characters too. Like May and Max barely did anything. I don't think
everyone was sidelined.
Yeah.
Even Ash was technically sidelined because he was like captured and then he was just with Pikachu and then Lance saves him, but he's still like, oh, Pikachu's evil, what do I do? Like Lance was pretty much the star when you think about it, which is weird because it's like, it's not even his generation.
Yeah.
Like, where was Wallace and freaking Steven, bro? I mean, I like Lance, but like, huh?
We were talking about it earlier before you guys came in. We were like, I think the reason why the XY writers didn't remember who Steven was is because they probably went back and they watched just those 2 episodes from AG and said, oh, Steven wasn't here. It was just Lance. I guess he never appeared. And then they just wrote him into XY and Ash never recognized him in XY. So.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, completely new get up. I mean, what can I say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another thing as well. Like Team Magma and Team Aqua, how they were in the series as well. Like they were introduced in which episode was it? Like 17,
the second episode.
I think it was.
I mean, I remember Zach mentioned this in his AG review. How it's like it's so strange because there was so much build up with Team Magma and Team Aqua, and then it just kind of goes nowhere. Like it's like, oh, we have Groudon Kyogre now out of absolutely nowhere, and it's like, where did this come from?
But I just wanted to say how like the whole arc itself was a bit of a mishap compared to how we could have seen maybe like a main character instead of Pikachu just foreshadow that spot instead.
Something. It's like, for one, I like the way they introduced them because obviously we have our main evil team, which is Team Rocket, and we've known them for like the first 5 years, and they're goofy. You don't really take them seriously. They always get their butts kicked by Ash. But then in having the second episode come face to face with another evil team, they're like way more serious. They have like these Houndowers. No, they have the Houndooms that are really menacing, and Team Rocket are scared of them. It's like, oh, like it makes them like an actual threat, and you're interested. But then like they don't do anything, and when they do show up, it's very boring and vague, and you don't know what the hell is going on. Like, if you play the games, obviously, but even still, like I played the games, and when I was doing my rewatch and I got to these parts, I'm like, bro, if I didn't play the games, I would not know what the heck they're talking about. Like I'm legit lost, and then boom, Kyogre and Groudon out of freaking nowhere. It's like an over-reliance in the games, basically. Like the games are telling the story for you, so the anime doesn't have to. Yeah. And like, all you know is that they're looking for ruins. That's it. Yeah. Wasn't there this one episode where like this one Team Magma guy showed up and like tried to steal the ribbon cup from the Grand Festival or something? God. That was stupid. Literally, what was the purpose of that? Literally, what was the purpose of he wasn't even part of like Team Magma anymore at that point. Like he shows up, his first appearance was in the Weather Institute episode, and he just comes out of freaking nowhere because you don't really expect him, because it's like Team Aqua are part of that episode, and all of a sudden, oh my god, it was Team Magma all along. And then he shows up again, but this is after the Team Aqua and Magma arc with Kyogre and Groudon, so the team is disbanded. He's just a thief now, and that's the second appearance, and then he tries to steal the Ribbon Cup, he fails, and then he runs away, but you never see him ever again. The most random thing ever. Why include this character? It was so weird. Oh my god.
How about Archie and Maxie? What'd you guys think?
Oh,
of
that's
that?
true.
Generic as hell.
Literally,
Okay.
that's just a
They weren't great in the original Ruby and Sapphire games either. That's the thing. Like, I think Oras is what carried Maxie and Archie, because like they actually kind of separated the characters a bit. But I mean, in the anime, they're just as flat as they were in the games. So it's like I don't really fault them on that front.
Yeah, I think the problem is also that they're introduced literally in the last 2 episodes of Team Aqua and Magma. So that's literally the end, and that's where you meet them. So once that's over, that's it. They only have 2 episodes, literally.
Yeah,
more room for characterization. Yeah.
And Maxie gets taken over as well, so it's like he's not even himself for like half of it anyways.
I just think the most disappointing thing is that AG was so good, and this was probably the worst part of it.
Oh, it was super
One of
bad.
the worst parts.
Yeah.
Super bad. Not only
I
were they
feel like-
generic as hell, but out of nowhere. By the way, we got the legendaries. Wait, what?
Legit.
Yeah. Like, I feel like part of the reason why AG is forgettable is because the evil team is forgettable in and of itself. Like, yeah, Ash is doing the gyms, May's doing contests, but like everyone always also pays attention to the main plot and the evil team. But because that was so bland, it doesn't stand out compared to everyone else, you know, every other series.
yeah. And honestly, this may be a hot take, because I know people love the DP villain arc, which I assume we'll get to in a minute here. But maybe it was just AG setting the tone here, but I've never really been a fan of when the anime just kind of repeats events from the games. Like, we have stuff like Origins and Generations to show us that. I think the anime could do so much more on its own, like something that's so much more original. Like the Flare arc in the XY was so good, and it's like, I don't know, whenever they just redo the same thing from the games, I'm just kind of like, did we really need that many episodes dedicated to that?
Yeah.
Let's use that to jump into DP now.
Yeah, unless Richie wants to say anything else about.
Nah, I'm waiting for DP. That's all.
All right, you hit us off with DP then, my bro.
Well, this is definitely a huge improvement, at least in my opinion, over what we got in Gen 3. So for you Gen 3 fans, I apologize. But first of all, with the whole, I mean, obviously Team Galactic were introduced first. I believe that they were going through like some sort of unknown temple, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
just
so
to-
they
yeah.
incorporated the Salacion ruins.
Yeah, the
which is pretty
Salacion
cool.
ruins, just to grab some sort of mysterious thing, which turns out to be very essential to the whole plot and the whole damn region, quite frankly. And then I think afterwards, I think it was another random appearance, and then we got to Cyrus. But the thing is, we weren't introduced to Cyrus right away as the evil team leader. Oh, no. Cyrus as in, like, just himself. And kind of like the thing I liked about the Cyrus thing real quick is that they didn't tell you right away, oh, this man's the evil team leader. Now, granted, if you played the games, you would have already known that. But if you only watched the anime, I really appreciate the build-up where they didn't just tell you right away. And they didn't wait until the end of the episode to tell you that. Oh, no, they waited until, like, because it was a 2-parter at the little museum with Cynthia and her grandmother. So I really appreciated the fact that they had enough patience to just wait until the end of the episode and be like, oh, yeah, by the way, he's the evil team leader. Even though they kind of made it obvious near the end, but I appreciate the fact that they kind of held on to it quite a bit. I mean, I'll talk more about the Galactic stuff later, but I just wanted to give like a shout out to how they handled the whole Cyrus thing. I think, honestly, this is kind of like the way that they should handle evil team leaders in a certain way. I think the way they did Cyrus was not necessarily incredible, but it was definitely a lot better, and it seemed to be one of the best things that they could have done for an evil team leader in this series, without a doubt.
Yeah, like I feel like the way they handled Cyrus is almost kind of like how they handled Lysander. It's like if you play the games, obviously you know they're the bad guy, but they introduce him as like a neutral character, and it's like, oh, it's a twist. If you don't know, it's a twist when you find out they're actually bad, which is cool.
I guess I kind of gave a preview of it earlier, and while it's true that I don't like how predictable this arc is, because like if you've played the games, you know exactly where everything is going to happen. You know where Team Galactic's going to show up. You know how the final confrontation is going to go down. And I will say it is still immensely better than what they did in Gen 3, what they did in AG. I guess the biggest downfall of this arc, though, other than the predictability, in my opinion, would just be that the build-up, while it does definitely mean something here, unlike an AG, it's so spaced out. And this isn't really this arc's fault. It's more just the DP anime's fault in general. Because like the DP anime it's infamous for like that very slow pacing, very stretched out with a lot of filler in between. And it's like it's one thing if you're binging the episodes, but if you're watching them like on a week-to-week basis, like when they were first coming out, it's like, oh, remember that spear key thing that they got 3 years ago in the Salacion ruins? Okay, that's relevant again now.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That is the main thing. How it's like, I remember there were just points I'd watched the Galactic arc like as a kid, and I'm like, oh yeah, I almost forgot that happened because it was so long ago.
Yeah, I have to say though, I really like the addition of Hunter J.
Definitely.
This felt like it was the first time this actually felt like a villain arc to me. And I also really like how not only Ash, Dawn, and Brock were really involved in the plot, but also Cynthia, Professor Rowan, Gary, kind of how I said in Zach's DP review. It was kind of almost like a diet Team Flare arc.
Yeah, it was handled really well in my opinion. And I like how, even though John, you said you don't like how it's unpredictable, and I can see that aspect, they also did do a few things. Like Richie said, like introduce Cyrus as kind of like a quote unquote good guy, but also like for me
the best part was definitely the late Guardians with
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
That was like
at least,
something completely original, which was
cool.
Cool.
Even though this arc was like fairly predictable if you'd played the games, like at least the anime did something to make it its own and made it work, unlike an AG.
I remember this arc was the first villain arc I grew up with because Diamond and Pearl was my first series, and because I was a kid as well, when I played the Pokemon games, I clicked A. I skipped all the dialogue, so I had no idea. Like,
he was like, "Man, this story sucks."
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know what Team Galactic's whole goal was. I was just like, "Oh, this is cool. There's a Giratina here, and we're in this weird world and all of that." But get to see it play out in the anime, where I'm actually paying attention to it on TV. That's when I started to appreciate the story they were telling there. So pretty much the anime was my first experience, and whereas I didn't know Cyrus was the bad guy, I still did appreciate that twist that Richie was going on. I know I found that very appealing when I was a kid. There's this whole stuff about red chains and all of that, and I don't know if that was ever mentioned in the game, but I was just so stunned when I first saw that in the Team Galactic arc as well, and how the late Guardians...
Well, considering I have the lovely pleasure... Not really. The lovely pleasure to play Diamond. And Platinum was my first ever game. I can tell you for a fact that it kind of was mentioned, but the difference is that Platinum had more of a major emphasis on it, because in Diamond there was sort of a mention of it, but they didn't put that much emphasis on it, because in Diamond and Pearl you just basically released them away, the Way Guardians, from the from the captive space within the headquarters. But in Platinum, that is where they really did mention the red chain, and that was where the whole focus was. So I would say that they kind of just took from Platinum's adaptation to the red chain, where it was definitely major emphasis, because there's a part in Spear Prayer where they just went above the clouds and they just go in circles until who shows up. But yeah, I would say Platinum was their basis for the red chain, as far as like their involvement and how significant it was.
I also kind of liked how like when they got summoned, there was like this kind of weird CG effect. It's like they were slowly coming into like the real world or their reality, but it wasn't really there yet, which is a nice detail. And once like the red chain connects, then it's like they actually materialize and they're actually physically there. That was a nice, cool thing.
If you're a kid for the first time seeing that, you're probably thinking, "What the fuck is that?"
Yo, why is this cartoon in 3D now?
I was so confused on the whole point of it, but it wasn't until I got older where I was just like, oh, so that's okay, that makes sense now. So, but no, I do agree. It was a nice touch, because normally they would just appear at first thing, but no, they kind of took their time with it, which I guess I appreciate. The reason I say that is because I mean, obviously they saw it film at the time with the whole back and forth fighting with the commanders and stuff, which obviously they won. Because I mean, if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't even be in that position at the arc. So.
Oh, speaking of like the commanders, I did really like the characterization in this arc. Definitely better than I feel the games did them, because I was just invested in them. And speaking of that as well, like one thing I always remember about the Team Galactic arc for some reason is just the banter between Team Rocket and Team Galactic as well. I always found it funny. Team Rocket being like fashion police to Team Galactic because they just hated the way they dressed and all of that. Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, they called them the fashion freaks.
Yeah.
It's always funny to see how Jesse, James, and Meowth are like relatively they're good guys compared to every other evil team, even compared to the other Team Rocket guys. Like we were talking about earlier, how they had to sneak into their own base and stuff. Like there are a lot of, you realize that aside from Giovanni, they basically dislike every other person that's a part of Team Rocket, which is really funny.
Yeah.
And then you get
pretty ironic.
Yeah, and then you the same thing with the other teams and basically any other villain that shows up in the show.
Yeah, it was interesting how they helped out Looker. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah,
Looker, the real MVP.
They literally become like part of the police force at the end, like pseudo, which is really funny actually.
Yeah, and it's also cool how they kind of bring that back for the Best Wishes arc with Team Plasma. Even though this is kind of jumping ahead a bit, but it's like, I guess even though Team Rocket did go with through that shift and they changed their plot, I guess the only good thing to come from that is that their relationship still stays intact, which is pretty cool. And it started from here in Diamond and Pearl.
That was certainly the best part of episode N, was that Looker showed up and it was like, oh, hey, I remember Team Rocket, because like I was really worried that they weren't going to do anything with that, but they proved me wrong.
No, that's how you handle callbacks, bitches.
Oh my god. Raph, anything you want to like lastly say about the Team Galactic arc?
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh, okay, well, jumping into Black and White then. Yeah,
Oh,
pretty
no,
much this. We were complaining about it earlier. Pretty much the whole point of the Team Plasma arc is controlling Pokemon using some kind of ray, and yeah.
Oh my god.
It's so disappointing because
What the fuck?
in the games, Team Plasma is the most interesting team.
Can I be last to talk about this, by the way?
Black and White are my favorite games, and I love N, and I love Team Plasma, and I love Colress and Getsus, and all of them just feel so watered down here. Like N still is like the only one who is like a little bit of a semblance of his original self, but even then they kind of like tone N's whole thing with the truth and ideals down. They water him down quite a bit. He's still like probably the most interesting character in the arc, but like compared to himself in the games, he's not nearly as interesting in my opinion. And then
he's N light.
Yeah, he's N light basically. and then Colress they absolutely ruined. Colress was, in the games, he's just a scientist. Like, he's only part of Team Plasma because they're, like, funding his research, basically. And, like, he's just doing it out of obligation. And then, in the anime, he's just like, oh, I'm gonna make the Pokemon go bad, haha! And it's like, okay, this guy is not interesting in the slightest. And again, it's a repeat of the Pikachu gets controlled thing. And I think they do that, like, 3 times in this arc. They do it a lot.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
It's like, it's one thing if you do it like once every series, that's already enough in my opinion, but then you do it like 3 times in the span of like 15 episodes and I'm like, okay, time out.
It gets annoying fast.
Yeah, like each episode was like, oh, the Pokemon managed to break free from our control here, we're going to approve it in the next episode, and then they do, it lasts a little bit longer, but then in the next episode they improved it even more, and it just got repetitive fast as well because of that.
I think this is that they had to use Black 2, White 2 Team Plasma as a base. Black 2, White 2 Team Plasma, while they're still interesting, they're definitely not in that same tier as Black 1, White 1 Team Plasma, which is about like liberating the Pokemon and doing what's morally right because they're following N. Whereas Black 2, White 2 Team Plasma is just bad. They're straight up bad people following Getsus, and so.
Yeah.
Yes, they couldn't do as much there. Could have made Colress more interesting. They could have made N a lot more interesting. And I think that just holds the whole arc back, basically.
Yeah. And I feel like what makes Black 2 and White 2 Team Plasma good is the fact that they came from an original Team Plasma, because it's not in the anime. They're
Yeah.
just kind of basic bad guys. They might as well just be Team Rocket again, like another Team Rocket. 'Cause it's just controlling Pokemon to take over the world. It's like, bro, it's so basic. And
Because at least what made the Black 2 White 2 Team Plasma interesting in the games was they had that conflict with the X Team Plasma, and you could tell that it was like kind of like a hard thing for them to fight their former comrades. But you don't have that context in the anime. You never even see the original Team Plasma. So also, the ninja dudes never show up. The Shadow Triad, they're not in this arc. The sages aren't in this arc. There's so many important characters from Black and White that just never even see the light of day here.
at least Charizard's back and relevant for like one
Charizard,
episode.
yeah.
They didn't even handle that shit right. What the fuck?
Charizard versus Reshiram, am I right?
Ooh.
I will say one thing because I haven't seen Episode N. Like Episode N is the only villain arc in the show that I haven't
Good.
seen,
I'm not
and
missing much.
I haven't played Black and White yet.
no!
For somebody,
Oh god.
but
Oh
see,
my
for somebody who hadn't played the games, I know they're good. I know what happens. It didn't make me, as a sole anime watcher at the time, excited. Like there really was, and I know that things got messed up because of the earthquake, but
Yeah.
still, I will say though, I was very disappointed, obviously, at the F in the chat for the Team Plasma versus Team Rocket arc. I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
I will say though that kind of going on a tangent with Operation Tempest though, I think honestly they salvaged it with that. Like I didn't think it was a bad arc.
That
to
was
be
the
honest.
better
It was
of
awesome.
Black and White.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the highlight of Black and White.
It might be just me, but my favorite Team Rocket arc in Black and White was actually the Battle Subway arc. I really liked the whole.
Legit, I
That
love that
really cool.
so
That's
much.
a close second for me.
Yeah, like Meowth is still was back then and still to this day actually. Now that I think about it, one of my favorite Pokemon anime characters. I loved him so much. So to see him finally join Ash, and bear in mind I hadn't watched any previous series episodes. I had only grown up with Diamond and Pearl and Black and White at the time. But to see him like go on the good side with Ash and Iris and Silent, as a kid, I genuinely believed him. And like when I saw that this was a part of the whole scheme, it actually really hurt me. But at the same time, I was like, it may hurt, but this is also really cool.
Yeah.
The backstab felt genuine as well. Like Ash did feel hurt, especially the Pokemon as well. Like Pikachu
Was going off.
yeah, he got really angry, yeah. And then what I like the most as well is like, and this is in Decalor Islands, and it's an episode probably no one will remember, but it's like the honey episode, like the second episode of Decalor Islands. Meowth tries to trick Axew, Oshawott, and Pikachu into, being nice to them, but Oshawott and Axew, being, the dummies they are easily persuaded. And Pikachu, it just obviously is with a brain knowing what happened earlier on in the series, just doesn't trust Meowth, and I really appreciate that too. But Operation Tempest, definitely the highlight of Black and White in my opinion. I love how they focused on Meloetta as well, because I remember like exploring the temple it had, and I was intrigued with the mystery, and to get it expanded on in the anime there was very cool, and to see Meloetta hold a bond with Ash, it was very wholesome, very, very wholesome. Probably up there with like Victini from the movies in terms of wholesomeness. And then Team Rocket Grunts appeared as well, and then Giovanni appeared, and then they brought back the freaking Weather Trio as well. Which I found that really exceptional as well at the time, because I did kind of enjoy the original arc for them as well, and they brought them back in their new forms as well to promote Black and White too. So I found that really cool. The only downside would just pretty much be, Giovanni having his battle with Ash for 10 seconds, because that was really hyped up in the community back in the day. I remember that, only for it to be one of the biggest downfalls ever.
Yeah. The only thing I was disappointed though was, and this is obviously we're going to get into the Flare arc soon, was that it didn't seem very like globally threatening. Like it was just kind of these characters,
It's just
like where you saw the civilians and the Team Flare arc like feeling scared and threatened. And
I feel like what had to do with that though is because like they were on a freaking they were in the middle of the ocean, so it's like it didn't really affect anyone. Like they were kind of like starting to freeze the world in a way, which like maybe is a reference to Black 2 and White 2 Team Plasma, but like it barely reaches the people because they're just so isolated. Which I understand that point actually.
Yeah.
All right, so like I guess one final thought I have about like a Team Plasma, and this relates to Team Rocket as well, is like, all right, yeah, the original Team Rocket versus Team Plasma got canceled, and that definitely affected like the entire series. But I don't like that people use that as an excuse to be like, oh, you got to give Team Plasma and Black and White some slack, because Team Rocket's original plan got canceled, but Operation Tempest came out awesome, and that was years later. Why couldn't Team Plasma, that had more time, get the same treatment? They just got lazy. Let's be honest, because look at how awesome Team Rocket was handled.
Well, they also
Team
have
Plasma
no
after.
why they had what, like 32 episodes to work with after the Unova League ended. So from BW 108 to BW 140, and it's like, why did they have to have the Decolor Islands there? They could have actually made an attempt to have the Team Plasma arc be pretty good, but they were like, let's just shorten it and have half the episodes be filler episodes. That was such a strange decision.
Well, Richie, you want to finally go with your rant?
I'll try to make this quick so we can go to Colin. Oh, holy shit! All right, here's the best way I could put it. I was thinking about this near the end. If I told you in 2010, and literally this was around the time where the Iris and Silent poster got revealed, and this was before we knew what Ash looked like in Best Wishes. If I told you right then and there that, hey, Best Wishes is coming, but here's the thing: Team Plasma's in it, but they're not actually the real fucking villains. And you probably look at me like I was crazy. You probably send me to the funny Lulu. That's exactly what this is. Like I'm sorry, Team Plasma. I'm sorry that your first actual appearance in that Team Rocket versus Team Plasma arc got delayed and all. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate, but the way that you were handled afterwards was complete, utter dog shit. Like, I think this was just bad. This was just bad. And they salvaged it with Team Rocket, thank God, which is ironic because they really needed that for their characters. And I know, people are like, oh, Best Wishes Team Rocket was but no, I definitely enjoyed Best Wishes Team Rocket. They definitely handled them in a way that was a lot more interesting, and it was actually, to be quite frank, a lot more refreshing, because whenever the Team Rocket arcs would pop up, they were always interesting to see. You would always be curious on what they would do next. I mean, sure, some of the things were obvious, but at the very least, wait until the moment of which their plot goes on about. That's what made it more interesting. I didn't really feel that way with them before because they were becoming stale. So the Team Rocket arcs definitely saved the Generation 5 evil teams, to be quite frank, because Team Plasma afterwards didn't really do themselves any favors. I mean, N was pretty much the person I expected to be. Corylus was not really that special. I mean, I expected him to be this nerdy looking dude to improve on the sciences and mind control Pokemon. Ugh. I mean, haven't we not been through that before? But Ghetsis, though, holy shit! First of all, if that isn't the definition of backseat gamer, I don't know what is, because that man right there did what exactly? He did nothing. He did fucking nothing. Like, what? I mean, you know what he did? I could just tell you right now. All he did was, all right, report back to me. We must get the light. That's about it. That's all he did. And then, of course, he shows up at the ruins to do the whole ceremony thing, which is the only good thing he actually did. I just named you. Gets his involvement in less than a sentence. If I'm able to do that in less than a sentence with fucking Ghetsis, a man who's supposed to be pretty fucking evil, and a man that's supposed to be that threatening. Now, listen, I understand that you can't bring over he almost killed you, Black 2, White 2 with Kiram. That I understand. But what I don't understand is that you relegate this badass looking villain with an interesting backstory into what he is in the anime. Yeah, go fucking next. Let's go to Gen 6. Stupid, man. But overall, I do think that the Team Rocket stuff definitely saved this generation, the anime. Definitely. As far as like their arcs, Operation Tempest was probably the best thing to come out of it. And not that the other arcs were bad, but Operation Tempest was definitely interesting build up, and it definitely had not necessarily a satisfying conclusion. Like, I'm not saying the conclusion was bad, but it was definitely one of the best things we could have gotten from the series, especially when, you know, certain things of mediocrity and some unpredictability, which turned out to be pretty was like a very common theme for the generation, which is unfortunate. That's it for me.
I mean, understandable. I could see why you'd want to let all of that out. But let's now speak about something that I believe wasn't messed up badly, and that was Generation 6's Team Flare arc, which, Raph, I'll let you speak about this first because, you know, one of the main people in that arc owns a Charizard, so go ahead, bro.
What a
Yeah, represent our boy.
So, Team Flare arc. The best thing that was probably going to be the build-up for it, and we got to see a great insight from the Mega Evolution specials for the anime side. You know, we got introduced to Alan, who's endorsed by Lysandra, and, you know, just doing all of this malicious intent without him being oblivious to it and realizing what he's doing, trying to find out his true purpose if he wants to become the strongest or protect for those that he loves. And the transition, like I mentioned this actually in Zach's review. Of course, it's going to be coming out later than Zach's review, so no spoilers for that. But it's just the whole transition of how the Mega Evolution specials played a great part into the build-up of the Team Flare arc. Like you guys were mentioning as well, how it was broadcast all over Kalos, and, you know, everyone was so scared to see what was going to happen to their homes, and how Lysandra wanted to just build a new world using Zygarde to take over the whole region. And it was a proper lunatic, and that is what we needed to see from, quote-unquote, one of, well, I'm trying my best not to be biased here, but one of the best series in the Pokemon anime. And compared to the game's counterpart, I liked how everyone had their own purpose to fill in for it as well. Like, we saw what happened with Serena, where she was looking after Marin, and they wanted to get Chespy. We saw Ash with Alan, and all of the gym leaders taking part in the crisis as well against the Megalith. But yeah, I think the one thing to take away from that arc as well was how there was a lot of little details that built up the bigger picture, and that's why I enjoyed it a lot. What about you guys?
Oh, yeah, the Mega Evolution specials, they definitely help towards that. You see, one thing I've come across in the community, though, I've seen some XY stands who say, oh, I love the Team Flare rock, but then they say, where did this giant rock come from? I'm like, oh my god. Because of the Mega Evolution specials.
Yeah, this is the thing. If they didn't follow the Mega Evolution acts, they're not gonna be familiar with what happened. And that's like what I was saying. Everything, like, it's like all of the pieces of the puzzles came together for that final outcome, because we obviously saw what happened with quote unquote the Rock, as it's called, with Rayquaza, however you guys would like to pronounce it. And, you know, Lysandra saying, oh, I'm just gonna look after the Rock for you guys, you know, I'm just gonna analyze
what
it.
You say?
Rayquaza.
You said it right.
That works. That works.
So, like, you know, how we wanted to analyze the Rock, and
Yeah.
Stephen was like, okay, yeah, you can look after that. We'll keep it in your hands, and then later on for it to be embodied into the Megalith, and, you know, for Chespy to get sucked into it, and then the main objective was to obviously rescue Chespy. Yeah,
that was just kind of weird, personally. Not to interrupt you, but that was just kind of weird because it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're this man who definitely doesn't look like first of all, definitely doesn't look evil, but he definitely is the fucking sponsor image of Dorito chips. I mean, yeah, go ahead. Take this nice big rock back to your region so you can research it so you can use it for later.
Well,
come on, Steven.
Better job of showing that Lysander's kind of like the Elon Musk of the Pokemon. Like, he's a well-known person. People trust him because he's made like all this good technology. And I think it was just like, well, who better than him to look over it? Because like Steven's not a scientist. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Mr. Stone is his dad, but was that ever a thing in the anime? I don't know if it was.
It was, but Steven was forgettable, so
Yeah.
even that one Max episode where he dropped soda in his Pokénav or something.
That's right. God, freaking AG dropping characters all over the place. Oh well, but I mean, I think it makes sense why he would have possession of the megalith / the giant rock. I hate calling it the giant rock. I just want to call it the so I'll call it the megalith. Screw it. Anyway. I think the XY arc is really, really good. And not just because of them taking characters from the games who I didn't think were incredibly interesting, like Lysander, and making them into something way more interesting. Because like you get a lot more of Lysander's backstory here about how he was like, you know, a very philanthropic person. Basically, I hope I said that right. But he was, you know, he was a guy who was trying to help everybody, and you got like a tidbit of that in the games. But I think they did a much better job of showing that here in the anime, and it kind of made you feel for Lysander, made you understand where he was coming from. Even though like the entire plot was different from like the whole ultimate weapon thing in XY, it was like still like, oh yeah, I can see where this is going. So they took the characters, they made them better, and they made their own unique story where you didn't know everything was going to happen. Like, you didn't think when XY started and you played the game, you'd be like, there's going to be an arc where Clembot dies.
Yeah, and you're going to cry about it.
Oh, yeah, you stole what I was going to say.
There's going to be a robot gym leader who dies, and you're going to cry about it. Like, if you told me that when XY started, I'd be like, yeah, okay, buddy, go jump off a bridge. That's never happening, right?
I cried.
Damn.
I cried multiple times during this arc. This is probably like this made me feel so much. And I know I say like I love the Galactic arc, but this is by far my favorite just because of that. And it has so much that I personally look for in a good villain arc. It had that very dystopian feel to it, which makes you feel like threatening stuff is actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the part
and you can't
also
say that, you know, nobody came to help because both the champions were there. Like
Yeah.
Two
not
champions.
it's not like one of those typical things where it's like, oh, why are the 10-year-olds handling this? Where's the police? Like, no, there's literally two champions on the scene trying to contain this, and it's still a big deal.
Yeah. Also, one of the best parts was when Bonnie started singing the Squishy song, and then Meyer disguised. Oh, I
Yeah.
lost it.
Yeah, it was just like, it's like you mentioned, there's so much going on there. You've got Clement with Clembot, you've got Bonnie with Squishy, you've got Ash with Greninja, typical, and then you've got Alan trying to picture himself and like get his brain together after finding out what he's just been going through after all this time, thinking he was doing something for the benefit of good because he wanted to show people that he was good, even though he was very much behind closed doors with this character and how he always wanted to show off like as the cool kid and everything. But yeah, it was a very, very emotional arc, and it had, everyone had their own segment for it.
There's also
Honestly,
the
I'm
fact
amazed that every character was able to get so much of their own time, other than maybe Serena.
Yeah.
I think Serena's
I was
the
going
only
to
one
mention
Yeah.
her, yeah.
left out.
No, she was Marin's
She was looking after
bodyguard.
Mary, Chesky and everything.
But it's like it was only 5 episodes. It's like in that time, every character got to shine, really, which was quite remarkable. Another thing I liked, and they later admitted
Truly
to this,
remarkable.
it was something that I thought of when I first watched the arc, and then it was later confirmed through like an interview with one of the directors. But basically, Alan is Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars. Like his whole arc, basically, and then Lysander's Palpatine. And so when I watched it for the first time, I was like, oh, I think that's what they're going for. And then when it was confirmed, I was like, yes, I knew it. But
That was really
so
cool.
it's not the most incredibly original thing, but I still really liked it. It's a good story regardless. So you may as well use it.
Ash actually gets to battle an evil team leader here for once.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
like
finally.
Giovanni. He had to use his whole team, and Lysander with just 2 Pokemon almost knocked down all of Ash's Pokemon, which is insane.
Well, the other great part about that battle is Ash always plays by the rules. He's always Mr. We gotta do 1-on-1. We can't do anything crazy. No, this man threw his whole team at him at once. He was trying to break every rule to
Yeah,
save.
fuck the rules.
And I was like, let's go. That's the kind of Ash Ketchum I want to see right
Bro.
there. I want
And
to
his
see the
speech
Ash.
too.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
speech, the epic Ash speech.
Epic speech, and then him just kind of going balls to the wall basically and say, I'm gonna stop you no matter what. And then we get that really dark scene where Lysander like fakes his own death off of the tower.
That
I was like,
that was something.
whoa, where did that
So
come
many
from?
different emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane, and I feel like what really makes it stand out, it's like kind of like you said, John. It's like it's very different from what happens in the games. And usually, whenever there's like a main plot with the evil team in the games, and even in the anime, it always happens like around the 7th or 8th gym before the league. But Team Fur doesn't happen until after the league. It's like the first time where it's satisfying because Tyrone mentioned this in the XY review, but it's like everyone's fighting at their full strength. Because what I hate is when they face the evil team, like Team Aqua and Magma happened before Tate and Liza. And it's like, bro, it would have been so cool if Ash had like a Sceptile by then, his full team. Here in the Team Flare arc, it's at the very end of the series. Like you said, Ash is going balls to the walls, using his full team.
Yeah, he's back. The Ashker Ninja. He has Gudra back. He's got his whole team there. Everyone else is at full power as well. And then you also get random characters like Blaziken Mask thrown in there as well. So it really feels like, I hate to say everyone is here like Smash, but everyone is here.
Everyone was literally there.
They were there.
When Bolt
Even the rivals
playing...
were there for a little bit too. Like they were in the background helping with civilians and stuff. Like everyone played a part. Like I think the only person who wasn't there was Alexa.
Yeah, it was like the ultimate culmination of what the entire series was leading to.
And when Bolt started playing, so good.
Oh yeah.
I almost feel like
that panning shot.
I almost feel like the Team Flare arc was almost like what the Team Plasma arc was supposed to be, because a lot of what happens in the Team Flare arc in the anime is a lot of the same kind of story beats that happen in the black and white games that we just never got. So all the gym leaders come and get involved. Yeah. The league gets interrupted by the evil team. This big arc at the end, like it just feels like this is what we were supposed to get. Honestly, but then it's funny because XY story is flat. But then this one, they nailed it. It's
when you put
the opposite of the games.
Even Alon kind of feels like a mirror of N in a way, N from the games.
Oh wow,
yeah, because
I never thought of that.
He's deceived by this other guy who's like the higher up, and kind of comes to the side later on. So yeah, that's a great point about how this kind of reflects black and white better than Best Wishes did. But yeah, I mean, there's so much good stuff about this arc. Oh,
so much good stuff, so much.
Like honestly, like if you watch the whole arc, the 5 episodes from start to finish, it's honestly better than almost every single Pokemon movie.
For sure.
I'd go as far as to say it's better than every movie, to be honest. Like in terms of like main plot and like evil villain, you have to stop them.
I wish
better than every movie.
Edit out like the intros and edit out the credits and stuff, and just have it be like one seamless movie.
I think somebody actually did that on YouTube.
Really? Oh my god!
Wouldn't be surprised.
The closest thing we've got to that is the Necrozma Arc, but we'll speak about that later. Me jumping in now. I did really like Alon's character. As much as I like Ash, I found it really cool we had like some specials here on the side focusing on an entirely new anime character for once, and then it eventually tied in with Ash's stuff. We've never really seen anything like that before. Sure, we had like the Chronicles series, but that was like Ash's past companions. But this was like an entirely new character. I love getting invested in a new character that isn't just there for one episode, like a character of the day, So I found that concept really cool. And then, as John mentioned as well, just the whole Anakin Skywalker vibes as well. I really dig that, especially because like in 2016 is when I first ever watched all the Star Wars movies as well. So just coming off them and then going into the Team Flare arc, I started to really sense all of that as well. Just so many great moments, like you guys said, from Clembot, the gym leaders come in, which was pretty much Avengers Endgame before Endgame even happened, if you think about it.
Foreshadowed the events.
Exactly. Or everyone is here, like John also said.
I think better than anything was that, since this arc was so different from the games, I was really afraid that they were gonna lighten it up a lot, because in the games the whole thing is the ultimate weapon and like mash it aside. Yeah, it's a really dark arc in the games, and so you thought like, oh, they're redoing it in the anime because they don't want it to be that dark. But no, it's like equally dark in the anime, even though it's an entirely different thing. So that was much appreciated.
We had Ash get electrocuted in that one scene, which was censored in the dub, if I remember correctly. It was so crazy seeing something like that in the anime back then. We did get some stuff here and there in Sun and Moon, but that was like the first time, in my opinion, we got to see proper dark stuff in the anime, and it was just a spectacle to see, to be honest. And then Lysander, he's definitely dead after that fucking, what's it called, Core Enforcer?
He literally dies.
Core Enforcer,
Body kills him.
Fucking Bonnie of all
I think there's the scene afterward with Diantha and Steven where they're like, oh, what happened to Lysander? It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
it's crazy. They should just say that he's dead. Like, I mean, honestly, we had all this other stuff. It's like, I feel like that was just kind of like, I don't know.
We can say the robot is dead, but we can't say Lysander's dead.
Yeah, man. We could
Arc was already kind of dark, anyways. I feel like doing that is just reminding it. Oh, it's just a kids show. Like he's just gone. He's just. We don't know. Like, he literally died. He teleported.
What you call it as well? I just remembered, as much as Clembot's scene was emotional as well, even though this isn't a part of the arc, I just hate how they brought him back, though, because it kind of ruins looking back at it.
Oh,
now.
no,
It defeats the purpose of the second
that
one.
nullified everything.
Yeah. At the time, it was emotional. When I look back now, it's just like, well, he comes back, so... And that's one disappointing factor I can think of regarding the arc, at least.
Oh yeah, might as well, since we're talking about disappointing stuff, and since you brought up the Clembot stuff, the fact that they brought the vines again at the end, even though they wrapped everything up perfectly, there was no point to this end. Oh my god.
I don't understand how XY had such... Okay, XYZ is very inconsistent. That's the word I would use to describe the entire thing, right? Because,
Totally, yeah.
I mean, it starts so good with that one Flare episode where, like, you get the tease of Ash and Alon, and then, it's like Ash and Sawyer's in that episode. That episode is really good. And then you hit this rough patch of, like, really, really bad filler. And then you get this nice arc of, like, the Greninja training arc, and it all culminates in the woods when he, like, masters them on. It's like, oh, this is awesome! And then you get a really, really rushed and underwhelming lead. And then you get this amazing villain arc, and then you get this really, really bad conclusion. They just get everybody.
Yeah. Literally, you described it so perfectly. As much as X and Y was so hype to me back in the day, I overlooked a lot of this stuff because I was a hype kind of.
Well, I don't think XY had a lot of these problems.
XYZ specifically.
It was just an XYZ. It was like,
because like
juggle so much stuff.
I dislike a lot of the filler in the XYZ season specifically. The fucking key episode. What was that? And the chestnut in a fuck. Oh, I'm getting the scene of
Chestnut and Quilladin in the same season. Bro, like they said, fuck the Chespin line, bro. Just give them the shittiest fillers, bro.
But yeah, the finds towards the end. Oh my god, literally. Terrible.
It's so dumb because you literally see Zygarde. Yeah, like you see Zygarde eliminate all the vines. It's like, okay, we've got it all taken care of. All of a sudden they're back, and it's like, we cannot see it. Oh, Greninja, you're the only one with your Ash Greninja form, even though Ash is fucking gone and he can't use the Ash Greninja form anymore. So what the fuck is the point? Oh my god, I'm gonna stop before I get
It just makes you realize.
Now you know how I feel with Gen 5. Fuck.
They just didn't want an Oak Slab. That's it.
Yeah.
Listen, it was a lot LL situation. No matter what they would have done, people would have scrutinized the hell out of it just because of that form.
Oh, of course, man.
Rewrite XY, make Greninja die during the flare up.
Obliterated. Oh my god.
Because it's such a touching farewell for Squishy too, and then it's like, oh wait, just kidding, here he is again.
I'm back.
Yeah, he comes back. It was like, why did you do that? And they play the theme, the Squishy theme in the background too, try to get the emotion running again. It's like, no, you're fucking here to steal Greninja.
It's not even just like a bad conclusion for Greninja. It's a bad conclusion for.
Ironically, that was the AZ thing.
We touched upon this briefly. Well, Polly did. That's the lullaby Bonnie and Zygarde did. I just want to talk about the relationship in general. It was one of the most wholesome things I've ever seen in the anime. Just Bonnie and Squishy's relationship, and Bonnie in that two-parter where they were in this cave and then Squishy ran away. Yeah, that was kind of emotional to me as well, to be honest, because of the bond we got to see them grow. But I think we have definitely talked enough about the Team Flare Rock now. According to OBS, this is the one we talked most about, but it makes sense because I think it probably was.
Damn, even my range didn't do it.
I feel like we missed a couple of things. Let's get Tyrone in here.
Oh no, we'll be here for another 2 hours.
But yeah, I think we can all agree it was one of our favorite arcs we'll be speaking about today. But it's time to move on to Sun and Moon, though, and we'll start with we'll start with the Nebby Arc, where that's where the game stuff started to come into the anime. So, yeah, the anime did it quite different, kind of, in the Nebby Arc. So, obviously, Ash gets Nebby instead of Lily. Lily's just kind of there at time to time, but they still focused on her relationship with her mother, which her mother isn't actually a psychopath now. She is very caring, actually, just can't be there for Lily because of how busy she is. And then, Lily's whole trauma gets put into this. Oh my god, I've just remembered everything now. Trauma gets brought up in that arc. What happened to her? she overcomes it. She becomes the happiest she's ever been, which is one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen from the Pokemon anime. Her regaining the ability to touch Pokemon she mourned for such a long time. And then, in that same episode, actually, the same alien Pokemon that made her suffer that trauma came back because of Faber, and then stole her, or kidnapped her mother. And then that's where we get the whole Mother Beast stuff. Oh my god. But yeah, before I rant on about all of this, I just want to give, a basic story there for everyone. Who wants to speak about this first?
Are you gonna boot me out of the call if I say I was slightly disappointed?
Yeah, I'm no longer friends with you. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
There we go. No, I just love the plot in the game so much. I like that she was a psychopath.
Oh, I do
she's
too.
More evil, and I just feel like they kind of watered it down a lot because it's supposed to be a slice of life series, I guess.
Yeah.
I also didn't like how they made this is obviously past this arc, but they made Faba into like comic relief when it's like you had that whole scene of Ash going to like beat him up and like he actually seemed pretty evil, and then like a couple seasons later he's like fanboying over the Master Royale and it's just.
I mean, it's pretty funny.
It was funny, but I guess for a villain arc, it was kind of like jarring, like that.
Yeah,
I can at least admit that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty solid.
Well, he may have to put both of us out of the call. I'm not gonna say I disliked it, but I've never known what to think of this arc. Right? I've always been kind of indifferent towards it because while it is very, very similar to what we get in the games with, the Mother Beast Lusamine and having go to Ultra Space and going to the Altar of the Sun and all that stuff, right? That way it's all very similar to the games. But like Ben mentioned earlier, there's these weird little rewrites, like, Lusamine's not crazy, Guzma's not here yet. There's a little stuff that's different, right? And
right.
I could never decide if it was for better or worse though, because I was like, there's things I like about it better in the games. There's things I like about it better in the anime. To me, I've always just kind of been like, okay, this arc was good. It existed.
I mean,
sit down.
The thing with that is like, I feel like I was the same way when it first came out. I mean, it's partially because I hated Sun and Moon. I still haven't become a full Sun and Moon fan by then, but still, it's the fact. I feel like I was also thrown off when it first happened because it's like, what, like. We're so used to like the evil team arcs and the big plot of the games to happen near the end, but it happened like literally like maybe the first third of the series. So it was like, what the heck? It was so weird. But then I think what makes it better is like, one, I feel like they did that because the Nebby Arc came out literally around the same time Ultra Sun and Moon came out. So it was like they were kind of saving the Ultra Sun and Moon story as like the big thing later on. So like I feel like if you look at it in the perspective of as the Nebby Arc is more to focus and develop Lily and also as setup for the Necrozma Arc, because right after that is when we get Poipole and the Ultra Guardians, then it's definitely a lot better. But as a standalone thing, it is a little like it's a weird placement. But then like I guess if you look at it as the Nebby Arc and Ultra Necrozma stuff as one whole story, it's actually not that bad. I actually enjoyed it a lot more in that aspect.
Yeah.
Honestly, Kukui and Burnett are my favorite part of the arc, if I'm being totally honest.
Oh yeah, they were awesome too.
I knew Zach was going to say that as well because of recent events. But yeah, I mean, I can understand where you guys are coming from though, because even on Twitter, like even actual Sun and Moon stands like myself as well, they are kind of they look at the Nebby Arc and they just say, oh, it's decent. The only reason why it's like so special to me personally is obviously because Lily is one of my favorite characters. So getting to see her whole story play out there, touched me in a way, such a beautiful way. But like, even I can admit when it comes to like the Ultra Space stuff, I did want to see Lusamine as kind of crazy, but I do kind of like her anime stuff a little bit more. But specifically about like the Mother Beast stuff, I don't like how like in the first episode it was all dedicated to battling one of them mons one at a time with one of the characters. That was just a whole episode. That was kind of boring to me. And then we finally get the meat of it in the conclusion episode, which Ash has the Pikachu Z finally come on his wrist. And that was cool and all. At the time, that was also very confusing though. I mean, we do later find out how that happened and all of that, but... yeah, in terms of like climaxes and compared to the game story, it definitely is just decent. It's nothing as special as like later stuff with the Necrozma Arc or other game adaptation stories we've gone over so far. It was just decent. The only reason
it's
I
almost
loved
like
this
a
so
mini
much,
boss, like a checkpoint.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. The only reason I loved this so much is just pretty much because of Lily. But the setup, it was definitely, I feel like it was a really good setup for the Necrozma Arc though, because that's all they needed. They just needed that arc, you know, some purple episodes here and there, and that's it. And then, boom, we jumped right into Necrozma Arc. So I thought that was a good setup for that, at least.
Well, like Zach said, I think what was jarring about it for a lot of us was how early it came in the series. Because, like, we're used to it always happening at the end, like, especially in Best Wishes in XY, where, like, Team Plasma and Team Flare didn't even show up until, like, the very last part of the series, basically. So it was definitely strange for it coming early. But I think it actually worked out because we did get some later arcs that worked out, like Zach said. And in addition to that, we also kind of got to cap off Lily's development here, because I think it would have gotten very repetitive if Lily's whole thing about, you know, she can't touch Pokemon, like, kept going and going and going for the entire series. Yeah, so I think it's better.
That would have been annoying.
And they just said, okay, that's it for Lily. Let's focus on some other characters going forward. So in that retrospect, I think that it was a good decision to have it so early in the series.
Yeah. I just wish, I know this isn't related to the arc, I just wish Lily did get an end goal though, because they kind of focused on family issues again. She wants to find her father. I wanted to see her like have a trainer goal though, but they never touched on
That's
that,
the main
though.
issue, is that she kind of gets left out, like, for the next, I don't know, 50-ish episodes of Sun and Moon. She just kind of becomes more of a background character.
Yeah. I mean, she, of course, in season 3 she did have a Z-Ring, got in the top 16 and all of that, but like that just felt like good build up to get a goal, but it still doesn't happen, and it's kind of disappointing.
And now the build up was there, but there was no payoff.
Yeah.
Now we're just left to assume that, like, all the Mon stuff is eventually going to happen in Journeys, but I don't know if it will, so we'll just have to wait and see on that one.
I'm hoping they do. With that cameo in Journeys, I'm hopeful. But at the same time, we know what Journeys can be like, so yeah.
It's 10 other things they need to address.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
But hey, Raph, I know how you feel about episode 49 and 50. Do you want to speak about that? The part of the Nebby?
Yeah, I think, you know, just the whole concept of Lily finally understanding what happened with Silvery, and, you know, her objective to later on now feel comfortable to touch Pokemon and interact with them again. And I remember you talking to me about this, and both of us meeting up and having a conversation about it before, but it just felt like a massive weight lifted off her own shoulders compared to ours as well. Seeing her get to that stage from the very first interaction, how she didn't want to see Pokemon. We saw this very shy character, and later on push over to her just being with a whole bunch of Pokemon, feeling comfortable again. It was just, proper encouragement. It was just really, really wholesome.
Well, all right, Richie, what do you got to say about this arc?
Well, first of all, I think this was probably very closely, as far as we can get, to the definition of game adaptation to the anime. Although they did provide like a few, I guess you could call them twists. Although, to be fair, when you're using the word twist, you're kind of like thrown in there the whole, I wasn't expecting this, so it kind of was a twist. But I guess you can say it was a little bit different, but they still very closely, I might add, for, you know, adapted, you know, the story from the games and all that stuff into the anime. I do agree, not to go too off topic, but I do agree with the fact of, you know, the whole Lily can't touch Pokemon arc. I felt like it would have been very, very repetitive if, for whatever reason, they decided to keep that going. So I'm kind of glad that they finally knew, hey, this is the right moment to stop it. We should put it right then and there in this episode, or whenever episode it was. But as far as the Guzma stuff is concerned, and the reason I say that is because people were very conflicted on how Guzma should have been handled. And I say this not when the original Sun and Moon games were out, but I'm saying when Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out, because that was actually a debate topic I noticed in the community, where people were like, Guzma should have been on, as far as the anime, she should have been the one from Sun and Moon. Oh no, she shouldn't have been the one from Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. And honestly, I feel like, not to fully take away from John's take, but I was kind of neutral on that idea. Like, it didn't really matter to me per se if she was gonna be like this crazy psycho bitch from Sun and Moon, or if she was gonna be like this Ultra Sun Ultra Moon thing where she was sort of neutralized a bit. Because what mattered to me most especially was how are they gonna handle the other things, like the whole Lily Gladian thing. How are they gonna handle the Necrozma stuff? Which, when I noticed, is that right after the whole Nebby Arc, that was kind of like what I like to call the great drop-off. Because that was where a lot of people were just like, great, the Nebby Arc is over. What's next? And then they see, oh, baseball episode. Fuck. So, and that's no disrespect to Sun and Moon. I mean, because obviously it took a lot of time for people to adjust to it. But to me, as far as the evil arc is concerned, if you want to call it evil, I feel like Faba for those few episodes kind of held up true to that nature, while everyone else was just kind of like, they weren't necessarily evil. They were just more so like, hey, we're here, we're part of this. But we didn't recognize how evilish thing from Faba until later, which was basically Lucamine, if you think about it. So I do agree with the sentiment, and this will be my last comment. I do agree with the sentiment that it was not necessarily a mixed bag, but it's kind of hard to give an opinion about this arc because I'm not sure what to make of it.
That's
like I'm not sure whether to call it good, bad. It's just I don't know. Like, I wish I could give an opinion about that, but I just don't know where I would put this or what I think about it personally. So,
all right, fair enough. Yeah, that's completely understandable. Again, I've definitely seen people on Twitter who definitely don't know where to stand on this, or if they do, they'll just call it decent and move on at the end of the day because there's been better stuff within the Sun and Moon series. One thing people do call better, though, is the Necrozma Arc.
Let's go.
This is the Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon's adaptation, but it's done in a very unique way, in my opinion. I don't know about you Pokepod guys, we'll come to you in a second, but instead of like... Well, Necrozma still does attack people within this arc, but the whole point of why it's angry is because it wants to receive its true form once again and be a good guy, because it saved Poipol's world when it was an Ultra Necrozma. It lost its form. It woke up angry one day trying to regain light, but all of Alola decided to come together to give the Z power to Necrozma, much like how Necrozma and the Light Trio, that being Sigaleo and Lunana, created Alola using their light as well. So yeah, literally just all of Alola gave their light to Necrozma, it regained its true form, and then the crisis was over. Necrozma was no longer attacking. And I personally really enjoyed that, simply because I feel like this was the perfect arc in terms of Sun and Moon's themes, of that being caring and friendship and sharing and receiving and all of that, to display those themes, because you're literally giving back to Necrozma, the one who created Alola. And, you know, Ash has come to love Alola as well, so he wants to protect Alola like everybody else here as well. It was just so wholesome to me in that sense, but there definitely was still some cons there, much like, Poipol's release was emotional, but it was kind of rushed. I'll let Zach get into that, because I know he has opinions on that. And then there's Team Rocket, which I'm sure we'll go over as well. But yeah, Zach, you take over with Poipol's release, and then we'll go to everyone else.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
All right. So when it comes to Poipol, I love the whole arc that it went through. Like, so it sucks that it's not really part of the series for that long, but I feel like it plays an important part in the Necrozma arc, because obviously, you know, it was trying to search for a different world with light that'll help his. But it also learns about, you know, friendship and the themes of Alola and family and all of that. It's great. It's just, I feel like that last episode of the Necrozma arc was so perfect when it comes to wrapping up the whole thing with Necrozma, but then it feels like the release of Poipol was just kind of tacked on at the end, and it feels extremely rushed, and like the excuse is Lucamine is like, oh guys, the Ultra Wormhole's closing, you gotta leave quickly, and Poipol's like, wait, but I gotta stay, bro. So it's like such a rushed ending, but then what kind of ruins it also is like, bro, they're literally with Solgaleo and Lunala who can create Ultra Wormholes. Like, they couldn't just take their time to have a better goodbye. No, they gotta say we gotta go because it's closing. I hate it so much, and I feel like obviously the episode prior kind of set up that Poipol was kind of gonna stay anyways because it came from this world that was in trouble, and now that everything's okay, obviously you would think, okay, it makes sense that it's gonna leave, but it just feels so rushed and out of nowhere. Like, they don't really have that much. Like, yeah, sure, they have the flashback and they play like the theme song, which was a cool twist. Like, it was the theme song is Poipol's flashback, but it's still like, it's extremely rushed, and it kind of like cheapens the ending of a really awesome arc, in my opinion.
Completely understandable. What are you Pokepod guys gonna say? Because I don't think I've ever heard your opinion on the Necrozma Arc, minus Kevin, I guess.
Well, despite this arc being newer than the other one, which was the Nebby Arc, I guess the first one, I don't remember as much about this one, truthfully.
Oh, okay.
I do remember I liked the Matori Matrix a lot. I thought that they were
I bet
interesting.
Polly does too.
That was an interesting twist.
Because like it was set up
I
early,
know someone will like it.
where they showed that Giovanni knew about Necrozma. So first I was thinking, oh, maybe Giovanni will come, and he didn't come, which was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, that was disappointing as well.
Matori got to do something, and we got that one guy with the Mega Aggron, which I thought was just awesome because we didn't see a lot of Mega Evolutions in our moves. Like when it did show up, it was like, oh, that's cool. It's not forgotten about, and Ash knows what Mega Evolution is, which is also very cool. And Kuka, we got to battle him with Braviary, I think. Which
was the best part of the Matori Matrix involvement, to be honest.
Love anytime the Professor Kukui gets some spotlight, because he's just my favorite character from the anime in general. I mean, he's so good. But going back to what Ben said, I definitely agree that the strongest part of this arc was the whole Manalo thing, like the themes of friendship and giving and Alola and all that. Again, like the rest, I don't remember a ton about, but I do remember like them giving the light back to Necrozma and enjoying that in the Matori Matrix. So I only remember positive things. I don't remember a bunch of negative things. So I guess that's it for me.
Alright, fair enough. We'll go with you next, Polly, because I'm very intrigued to hear yours actually, because you side at Team Rocket being the
well,
Team
I don't know
Rocket
if you saw in the chat, but I actually also don't remember too much about this.
Oh right, okay.
Get out of here.
But that part I actually didn't, because I'm biased towards the old Rockets. It's like, I don't know, it's Matori is boring to me, and they brought back all these randos that's part of her team. I mean, I thought it was interesting, but like,
so like what I will say is like, I kind of agree with Polly. Maybe not to the extent that she feels, because she obviously she's very attached to Butch and Cassidy. But it's just the fact that so it's weird. It's like I like it, but I don't like it. It's cool because for one, Matori's kind of been just background character, just like Giovanni's like freaking, I don't know, secretary, assistant, extra person next to him since the end of Diamond and Pearl. But I liked how Sun and Moon, they kind of gave her more character and she's actually involved. Yeah. I just don't like that this kind of didn't lead to anything, because like John, you mentioned how they had the tease with Giovanni, and like I thought he was going to get involved, or I thought this was at least building up to something.
Rainbow Rocket, I remember your video.
Yeah, I thought it was like Rainbow Rocket or something, but then I thought that like at the very least, okay, Matori Matrix like involvement in the Necrozma arc was a little random, but I thought this was set up for something that was going to happen later, but nothing happened. I guess the buildup with Giovanni was this, but they don't really do anything. It's so weird. It's like it's weird. I don't know. So they have the whole thing with Necrozma. They're trying to stop it, but also save it, and when they go to its world. But then you also have Team Rocket trying to steal it at the same time. And it just adds this extra variable for no reason. And to me, it just feels like an excuse to try to like have Professor Kukui not part of the main gang again. Because with the Nebby arc, he had to save Burnett, and oh shit, he missed the Ultra Wormhole. Now he's got to wait outside. Oh my God, Team Rocket's out again. All right, I'm gonna stay back. You kids go to the other world, and I'll handle this. It was cool. Yeah. Like I love Kukui's moment. But it's just like, did this really need to be here? Like, the arc is about Necrozma. Why is Team Rocket here? And like the main trio, Jesse, James, and Meowth, aren't even involved with this. Like, we lose that part of it as well. Like, it's always cool seeing Team Rocket go at it against their own team members. But here, it's like they were sleepy because the light of Alola was being lost, and like they're just not involved at all. So it's like, why the hell are they here?
You just remind me of one of my favorite scenes where it's in the first episode where Kukui comes in and he's wearing a shirt, and Ash is like, "What is going on?"
He's wearing a funny shirt.
Yeah, that was a really funny scene. But you mentioned that, it's like, wow, was Jesse and James even in this arc? I don't remember them at all.
Yeah, so like
they're at the end. Beware help makes them like put their hands and share their energy as well, but they're pretty much just not there. Like the Matori Matrix are just kind of boring. Like. What was the point? I don't know, man. They just feel random. They feel like an afterthought. Like
I can get that.
Fill up time here.
Expecting Rainbow Rockets to come in, and like what I thought from the beginning when, Team Rocket was sent to Alola and they had to leave behind their Kalos Pokemon and they made their own base in Alola and all that other stuff. I thought what they were trying to do was they were trying to redo Best Wishes Team Rocket, but in a way that would please more people. So, like, they were still comedic. They still kept, like, their original character trait, but they just didn't. So, in that respect, I can definitely see why it's disappointing, because you don't get much out of Giovanni or much out of Jesse James and Meowth. It just kind of goes to Matori randomly, but it is nice to see her get something to do.
Team Rocket, do love Alola, I do like that so much, but regardless of that, I think the reason the other Team Rocket members are in this arc is definitely because they wanted to add a little bit more action. Sure, because if you think about it, episode 88, the second part of the 4-part arc, that's just pretty much all dedicated to action only. That's where the battle Duskwing's Necrozma, Duskmane Necrozma as well. And then Team Rocket tried to steal it. And then in the next episode, we have that Mega Evolution battle as well. I feel like it was just there to give more action, because most of the thing they wanted to do with this arc was tell a story instead of provide that much action. So yeah, I feel like that's the only reason Team Rocket that kind of got
like a whole episode that was just nothing but like exposition, like right after that.
Yeah, that's
so it balances out.
Yeah, so yeah, I feel like that's why they were added there. But still, it was kind of underwhelming because they added this thing, like Zach said, where all the adults, for some reason, I can't remember why, to be honest, but they for some reason feel weak because of the.
And it was never really explained. Yeah. It's not explained at all. It's literally just like, oh, I guess it just doesn't affect Pokemon and kids. All right, that's it. Like, that's literally it. It was like, what the fuck? Like, that's so random.
That's a weird explanation.
I would just assume that it's because, like, oh, kids have this pure heart energy, and they just, they're having so much fun in Alola, and the adults are old and cynical, and they need the sun to feel good. So
I think I just felt like it was kind of a little bit of a downgrade from the Flare arc, even though the two series are very different. Yeah. If I was going to compare it to the Team Flare arc is Paul, and the Sun and Moon arcs are Trip.
All right, I wouldn't go that.
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't know about that.
You might get kicked out for that
one. Gary Oak. We said it like Gary Oak.
I mean, yeah, in terms of like the other game adaptation stories, Team Flare definitely the better one, that 100%. But for
the best one.
But for what Sun and Moon wants to be with its themes and everything, I feel like this arc was perfect for the Sun and Moon series. Still has negatives there, sure, but for what Sun and Moon wants to be, it's nice.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's hard to really like rate these on the same scale as the other arcs we talked about, because like they're not really villain arcs. Like, I think of the Nebby arc, and I think that more as like the Lily development arc and Ash getting something important with Nebby here. And then I think of this one, it's just like the general Alola arc or Necrozma being there, I don't think of this as the Matori Matrix arc, or I don't think of the other one as the Lusamine arc, So I guess the villains don't really define these arcs, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's just some kind of other thing. Richie, anything you want to say? I think you said you wanted to say something.
For now, I'm just waiting in anticipation for the very next one.
Oh, gush about Guzma right now.
Oh my god. Alright, hold on. First one, let me move this nice bowl of mac and cheese over.
Uh-oh, he's getting ready.
Alright. I mean, it is his favorite. Alright, first off, I was kind of puzzled, I should say, as to why they kind of waited until, and this is no disrespect, but I'm still kind of curious as to why they kind of waited until near the end of the series, literally within the last stretch, to then say, oh yeah, by the way, let's just throw Guzma in there. And I'm like, it's nice we can finally see him, but to me it's like, because at the time I didn't know what his role would be in the league and all that stuff, so I was like, wait a minute, why are they waiting for this time to now introduce him? I like the fact that his backstory, they don't directly tell you. I mean, obviously, because some of the stuff you can, like, for example, abuse and stuff, like, you can't do that. Well, I mean, they kind of did, but it was, like, watered down in a way. But the way that they kind of handled with his battle with Ash, him being surprised by, Golisopod's ability, where if it gets to a certain HP, it just, exits out of the battle, which is emergency exit for the folks that don't know. for him to be caught by surprise by that and then just kind of like make an excuse on top of that, I think he was just definitely trying to cover his failures, which has been documented, especially when we got that backstory where, you know, Kunkuli and I think Hala, if I said that name correctly, Hala? Yeah, Hala. Yeah. Where they were trying to get him on the right path, but Guzma was not having any of that shit. He was just like, you know, he just didn't believe in he just didn't believe in the ideals, no pun intended, on the whole aspects of that path. So he just wanted to do what he thought was best, which was, you know, the more bad approach. So I was never interested by the timing of his introduction, but I still at the time was kind of curious as to why they kind of waited. And then obviously when the whole league stuff come out and his involvement and stuff, I'm like, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because they kind of wanted to save him best for last because they think, oh, we could probably utilize him better during his last stretch. So as far as his involvement in the league is concerned, I did not really expect him to just fucking plow through the competition the way that he did. I thought that maybe, you know, there would be like a few battles here and there where he kind of struggled. Well, before he gets to Ash anyway. But no, he just completely annihilated them. Like he annihilated that trainer. I forgot his name, but he came from Kalos. So there's your continuity. And the disrespect in the Lana battle, like that was fucking brutal. That was really, really brutal. And here comes one of the most questionable decisions that I ever saw. And no, I'm not saying this because I'm a Guzma stan. I'm questioning it based off of like the significance of what he wanted to do and the plot and all that stuff. So let me explain. So his whole point with the league is, if I win the league, I'm going to take it over and destroy it, which is basically, you know, destroying Kukui's dream, which is what he wanted to do because Alola never had a league in the anime, so he wanted to do it for them. Well, you can thank Ash and Time Traveling for that, but regardless, it's still something he wanted to do. And Guzma was not having any of that shit. He was just like, I'm going to come in and destroy it if I win. And for a while of it, it looked like he was going to because he was applying for the competition. No one could stop him. I mean, obviously Ash probably would, but you would think that, with the stakes at the line, with the plot points aligning and the characters, you know, applying for the competition, this seemed to be like the more ideal finals matchup, you would think. But no, that's not what they did. What they did was, we're going to put this in the semifinals and let that be the decider. Now, the reason I hate that is because I feel like the circumstances of why Ash versus Guzma was important was more suited for finals. Because let's think about this for a moment. Let's say Ash versus Guzma was the finals, right? And let's say, you know, they both make it there. Guzma literally would have been one win away from accomplishing what he wanted to accomplish. And Ash would then be considered the last line in defense to uphold the importance and the dream of Kukui's, you know, of having the Alola League. So for them to say, all right, let's just put in the semifinals, they kind of neglected a lot of the build-up from what Guzma wanted to accomplish, and the whole what if about Ash being the last line of Alola defense as far as like the league is concerned. So I was very disappointed in not only how they handled that, but just kind of how during that semifinals they kind of just fucked with him a bit, because if you know, there was a whole funny thing where where Galissapod's emergency exit ends up fucking up, and it got I forgot who it was.
Scizor gets killed.
See, Scizor, my man took an L. My man had no business being there, and he just took the L from the fire blast. Like, this is really unfortunate. The positives I do want to say though is just where near the end where he kind of lost his shit a bit, where he said, you know, one of his famous quotes, which is, "Guzma, what are you doing?" And then it shows the camera zooming back out.
The dub ruined that, by the way.
I don't know. I mean, they kind of just ruined it personally with the significance of the battle by putting it in the semifinals. If had you put it in the finals, I feel like the battle would have been more significant, and I felt like it would have been a really nice way of ending, you know, his plot line, because, you know, if you think about it, that was pretty much his last major appearance. Although technically, if you want to count the 5 seconds that he had in the final episode. But overall, I like Guzma as a character. Love the man. I'll stand him to the day I die. But the way that they kind of handled him in the league was pretty stupid. And I still don't know why they thought that was a good idea. Now, granted, it didn't really change much, but I feel like an Ash versus Guzma finals would have been a lot better than what we have gotten personally. But he's still my man, so you know what? Don't matter to me.
Well, I see it both ways, because originally I was fully on Richie's side, and I was thought, like, man, Guzma definitely should have been the final smash, would have been way higher stakes than Ash versus Gladion. But I can sort of understand why they did it the opposite way now, because I think they wanted there to be more emphasis on Ash winning his first league and less on Ash just stopped the bad guy. Like, they kind of wanted those to be two separate things instead of lumped together in one. So, I feel like Ash versus Guzma in the finals would have been really cool, but I can see why they did it the other way.
Oh no, I mean, I appreciate the other perspective. I mean, if that was the reason, then sure. And maybe I'm just used to the old ways, and yes, I do agree with the fact that it would have just been the generic Ash stops the evil man. But the reason why I think that would be better, again, not to repeat my old points, is because that's kind of what it was going to. That's what it was aligning up to.
I understand that, to be honest, because back when I made theory videos back in the day, I legit thought, because of the story they were building up with Guzma, that he would actually be the final person Ash battles in the league. I was confident that Ash would battle him last, and then, it'll be a great, what's the word I'm looking for? It would show their differences quite well, because, Ash loves all the themes of Alola, all the culture he's come to love, where Guzma wants to stray away from that culture, kind of. But yeah, in the end, he ended up going with Gladion, which I understand John's point as well. It's because they wanted to put more emphasis on Ash winning the league. But it's Guzma overall for me. Yeah, I feel like he was still done decent, but I feel like there definitely could have been more to him. Alrighty, so there's our thoughts on each of their game adaptation stories. Of course, we talked about the Darkest Day in KG stream if you're curious of what we said there. And of course, me, Zach, and Raph have made multiple videos on our channels about that as well. But this was a fun discussion. Thank you for coming here, Pokepod crew.
Well,
Thank you for having
us.
Yeah, no problem. Of course, if you're still watching the crossover, the final part of this crossover will be on Raf's channel tomorrow, where he'll be talking about Pokemon anime sync pairs for Pokemon Masters, which I felt like was a very fun video. But as always, if you did enjoy this podcast, then please be sure to consider leaving a like, a share, and if you're new here, a subscribe along with that bell icon to stay in loop with all things Pokemon anime related. And if you're listening on Spotify, just a simple like and share is good over there as well. Thank you for listening, everybody. This is the Anipoke Bros and the Pokepod crew, signing out.